Good morning, everyone. My name is Lydia Richmond. I am a Credit Recovery English 1 teacher for NCVPS, and I am also one of the instructional leaders with the Professional Learning Group, which is an awesome group to work with. And I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. Now, this is a change from what you see on the agenda that we sent out. We actually We're supposed to have someone else presenting, but she is not able to present, so I am here for you. And we are going to talk today about how to make visually impactful announcements for your courses. And so I actually teach in Blackboard, but we also just recently started with Canvas, as you all know, and we also work in Moodle some. And so we want to make sure that we are using good visual practices for all of those places. So let's take a second. Let me talk to you about what we're going to go over. First, we want to think about what our purpose is for these announcements. And this is something that we have had much discussion and training on in our ELCs, etc. We want to talk about how we can achieve that purpose. We want to talk about examples, and we want to talk about tips and tricks for doing this. So the purpose of our announcements, of course, is to engage the students. And we want to do that in 3 ways. Those are the 3 pillars. We want to teach the students, we want to celebrate the students, and of course we want to inform the students. Oh, hang on, I lost my screen share. Okay, so we want to engage, teach, celebrate, and inform. I apologize for that delay. So one of the ways that we can make sure that we engage, of course, is to have colorful announcements that are relevant and also that are in the now. And so what do I mean by that? Well, who are we teaching? We're teaching teenagers, right? And so we want to make sure that what we present to them isn't outdated, and we want to make sure that we're using references that they understand. I have a picture there of Homer Simpson. Of course, they may or may not know who he is. I think most people these days know who Homer Simpson is, so that's a little bit relevant for them. And it would, if Homer's thinking, you must finish your first 4 modules this week or something like that. And so Homer can be, or something like Homer can be a good way to be relevant and in the now for them. We also want to make sure that we're teaching to our students. Obviously, we want to use a variety of Web 2.0 tools. Using the same thing over and over and over can become redundant. And so freshening up those announcements with a variety of Web 2.0 tools can be something that will actually catch their attention, make them look, make them want to click through and see that teaching that we've created. Again, being quick but relevant. So we want to make sure that we do not do ridiculously long presentations or something for students, because most likely in this age of everything must be quick and everything must be in our hands now, the students most likely wouldn't sit and watch it. And then we want to make sure we're very visual. So doing things to catch their attention, as I've said multiple times here, catching their attention, getting them to look. The next, of course, is celebrating. And that is a big deal in our organization, and that is something that we do very well, and that is celebrating our students, putting their names up in the lights. You want to make sure that you're very specific with your students, and we want to say, what did they do so well? Not just good job, Lydia. But Lydia, I love the narrative that you wrote, and I love seeing all the conflict that you put in there. Or Dawn, your narrative, as it says here, great job on your narrative, Dawn. And then perhaps a little blurb about maybe that he did well with the dialogue or something like that. And we want to make it stand out. And there's an example of how I have created some celebrations in the past so that it's not just the same as the rest of the text on the announcement itself. And then we also want to inform, of course. One best practice that I have seen out there as I have gone in to do spot checks as an IL are quick tips. And there are some people that do daily tips for their students. And these can be really easy tips like, did you know we have a peer tutoring center? That's a great way to inform. Did you know that you can click on this over here and see the pacing guide? Did you know, little tips like that, and it becomes something that the students are regularly seeing and expect to see. You can also inform them on progress reports are coming or mastery charts, whichever you use. You can guide them to the pacing guide, to the syllabus. You can talk to about due dates or on pace goals. There are a lot of options for informing. You can get really creative here. Now, one thing I really want to talk about is the amount of text that we use. It is important to have text, to have that teacher talk in writing, but we need to remember our audience, and that audience is teenagers, as I said a little bit before. And the key to this issue is when we think about teenagers, we want to remember that, like I said, they don't want to sit there for a long time to really do anything. So the more that you can put in brief, but like I said, relevant information, the better and more beneficial and effective it's going to be for the target audience. So let's talk for a second, before I get into some of the other ways that we do this, let's talk for a second about the basic format of an announcement. My suggestion is that you use the same basic formula, quote unquote, daily. So the same basic thing every single day so that you make sure that you've covered those 3 pillars. And also the students will learn to look in those specific areas for the pieces that they need. So perhaps you start with the celebration, then you talk about where you are supposed to be for that week or that day, and then you go into your teaching. And then maybe you finish with a little bit more information, a reminder about the peer tutoring center, etc. This will help you make sure that you've covered those 3 pillars, and it'll also help you keep it simple but engaging. The students see it very quickly. There's not tons of text. It's visually effective. It's visually engaging, and your students will appreciate that because they'll be likely to look. So let's look at an example that I created. So you can see at the top that I have a celebration of sorts. It's a welcome to some students. And then I tell them that this week we're venturing into Module 2. That means as of this past Friday, so here's my inform, as this past Friday, you should have completed all the work through Module 1. Then I have another shout out to Desmond and Ephraim. Notice that I highlighted their names so that it is obvious that I'm talking about them. Then I give them a little bit more information. Module 2 will build on what you learned in Module 1. And then I jump into my teaching. In Module 2, we're focusing on the novel. When we read fiction, we have to keep in mind that authors have made specific choices. As you read Fahrenheit 451, you'll want to keep in mind many of the literary terms you reviewed in Module 1. And then I've created a cartoon for them to talk about the literary terms. And then one thing that I think is key is what I call a framing of whatever the Web 2.0 tool is. And what that means in my mind is that I tell them that the item is coming, and then after I've put it in, I frame it. I put something after it. So you're going to see these terms being used by the author Bradbury as you read. Notice that I didn't just plop the Web 2.0 tool in. It is relevant. It is engaging. It will catch their attention. And they can look very quickly at that cartoon and get the information that they need. You can't see the bottom of the announcement, but you can also see that I've added in their mastery charts. I've added in an explanation with a video, and so they have that as well. That's an additional Web 2.0 tool that they have there. Okay, so the next announcement that I wanted to show you is just my welcoming announcement that tells them a little bit about my class and what to expect when they come in for the very first time. So you can see, welcome to our first day of Credit Recovery English 1 for spring 2016, sorry. Our goal this week is to finish get started in Module 1. Let's look at a few things. Then I've created an image there where I have added in arrows to point them to where to go. And I have put the text in there, get to know Miss Richmond here, see feedback on assignments here, get help from a peer tutor here, and it tells them to sign in as a guest. I created it like this as an image with the goal in mind that most likely they'd be willing to look at this very quick image rather than sit through a video. Now, I do plenty of videos because I think it's important for them to watch me walk through a process. But at the same time, again, I understand my audience and I know that they are likely to get quicker information this way. I also have told them to go to the class documents link where they can find our pacing guide, and you can see our expected pace and dates here. So in that week 1, I've pointed a ginormous arrow to the first week and the first goal. And then a little bit lower, it got cut off, but it talks about, one of the getting started pieces asks you to download Blackboard IM. And then I do have a video for them there on how to do it, because it's a lot of steps for somebody that's brand new to using Blackboard IM. So those are just a few examples of how I have used images and moderately a low level of text to get my students to see what they're supposed to see and to quickly get the information they need. So I know this presentation, the goal was to talk about wysiwyg. That's how you pronounce it, what wysiwyg, which stands for what you see is what you get. Everything I have created here has been created using the wysiwyg editor, which is the HTML editor. I'm assuming most people are comfortable with this, but I did want to show where to find the HTML editor in each of our LMSs. In Blackboard, when you're in the toolbar, you click on the little thing that says HTML. This is where you can put in embed code. In Moodle, it looks like the 2 caret signs going either direction. And in Canvas, it actually just says HTML editor, and you can toggle back and forth between HTML editor and rich text. This is the spot that you click where you can actually, like I said, put in the embed code that you might get from a tool that you have created. And I'm going to talk for a second about ways that you can get, or places that you can get some good embed code, so that you're not just using the text, not just using the emoticons in the announcements, which again are fine and fun, but just some ways to enrich the announcements that you've created. So I showed you in that first announcement that I created, I showed you some glitter text. This is actually, the website is actually www.familylobby.com/create-glittertextgraphics.asp. But if you just Google glitter text, you'll be able to find that. And there are a couple of options. The cool thing about glitter text is that you can write it however you want and change up the text. And then you can actually get the HTML code so that you can put it in there under your wysiwyg editor. So notice that I created the great job on your narrative Dawn text, and then it generated for me the HTML code, which is just awesome, because then I didn't have to go in and code something myself, which, if you're not very familiar with HTML, or maybe you know just enough to kind of deal with it, if you're not very familiar with HTML, it can get very confusing as to how to put the HTML into an announcement or into anything where code is required. So again, you can Google glitter text, you can Google MySpace text, MySpace banners, those sorts of things, and you can get that HTML embed code easily and use it that way. Some other places that you can go to get embed code that helps you is you can create a Jing and Screencast account. You can download Jing, it is free, and you can get a Screencast account that is free. And what you do is the Jing, which many of you are probably familiar with, Jing allows you to screenshot. So if you've created something like in a PowerPoint or a Keynote, if you use Keynote, if you have created something there and you need the embed code for it, you can take a screenshot and then load that up into screencast.com. And that will provide you with the embed code so that you can put it over in your announcements. That's how I did the cartoon that I showed you, the bit strip. That's how I did that. And then now over in screencast.com, I always have that cartoon sitting there waiting for me. PhotoBucket is an option that you can create your own account. It can be a private account, and you can put your images in there and it will generate the embed code for you. You just want to be careful with PhotoBucket. You want to make sure that you're using your own images when you load them in there. You can also go to this website. It's www.html.am. If you're comfortable enough with code, or you feel comfortable enough with code, you can pop over there and actually you can get some tips and code to use in your announcements, and then you just fill in the spots that you need. It shows you how to make a table. It shows you how to make charts. It's really beneficial site if you're not familiar with that, and you can go over there and get the tips on how to pull in the code that you need. So really, that is what I have to talk with you all about today. And I wondered if you all had any questions. I recognize that there's a little bit of a delay in the presentation, so I'm going to just sort of keep talking until you see this image. And if you have questions, you can type them right into the Q&A section on the presentation that you're watching, the event page. I do appreciate that you all have come in today, and I do see that I have a few viewers, and I hope that you learned something new. This is a little bit shorter than we had anticipated, so if you have any questions, please let me know there in the Q&A. If you have any suggestions and you want to put them in the Q&A, that will help any of those who are watching later to have a conversation with you and to talk about some of the things that that I may not have broached, topics that I may not have broached here. So I'm going to pause just for a moment and see if anybody has any questions, comments. You can type those right in the Q&A. Be sure that you are looking forward to our 11 o'clock presentation from Don Lursey. He'll be talking about Google and some extensions that you can use there to benefit your students. And that starts at 11 o'clock. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you all so much for coming in, and enjoy the rest of your digital learning day.